Hello, everybody. This is What's Next Wednesday. Um, Today's conversation is gearing up for senior year, the college application process. My name is Ken Oxendine, and we're ready to go. Today's What's Next Wednesday is it's all about helping our families and our caregivers support their secondary age students as they plan for life after high school. From finding the right fit to navigating financial aid, the process can be stressful students and adults in their lives. Topics vary monthly, and we address many things for not only you to figure out how to help your student, but also how to help your students help themselves as well. As we look across the landscape, state colleges, there's several. You have state colleges, your HBCUs, and so many other colleges, two-year colleges, as well as other ways that you can earn your degrees. Throughout this course of this year, we're going to talk about everything, and also you'll be able to have these resources as well, the scholarship opportunities, the web links, and all these things. One of the things that I wanted to touch base on this first part is really the Chesterfield College preparing you for college. There is a website that we have for Chesterfield students on our website that you can easily take a look at. So I want to show you that recording, or not show you that website right quickly, so you can really see what those parts and pieces, what they look like, and really just how they are. If I can find it, and then this how you can utilize that space. But I appreciate you guys as I am looking for that. I want you to also to recognize Dr. Coleman, one of our spokespeople today, Sonia Smith, and Patrick Kennedy, and Amy, all of us, and then also Lauren White is here as well. So we have a plethora of individuals that's going to be to really touch base on all of the things that you really need, and so. Like I said in the email, you saw their bios. Take a look at what they have and take notes, but understand all the web links and everything that we're having tonight. We're going to end up sending those out to you.
And Ken, I can actually, I'll pull it up and we can share it at the end. It's just the website though that is on the CCPS website, ccps.org. has, and I revisited it last week, just kind of preparing for tonight, tons of resources on there, videos that were actually a few years old, but not too old to where they're no longer current. But really and truly from checklists that you might need, how to get through it, to videos on, finding the fit and planning your visits. Oh, actually, he has it right here.
So yeah, so it's like Amy said, it's all these different pieces that we're talking about, and you do have all these parts right at your hand. Tonight, the great thing with having people right in your face, you can answer the question that sometimes that it is a tasking job. It is stressful. It can be, but the thing is, utilize the resources that you have at your fingertips, and tonight is one of those fingertips. We'll continuously always talk about your students have your counselors in your school. Each school has their counselors for you, but then also there's GRASP representatives as well in each school. I will at the end. We'll also have all the GRASP representatives who are at each school, and I'll drop those lists as well as the link. So really, your biggest thing that you want to do is listen. Take notes where you need to, and also be ready to answer questions or ask questions.
You want to get started, Ken?
Yes. All right. So we already covered what What's Next Wednesday is. The bigger part is now figuring out these parts. Dr. Coleman, from your experiences as both as a principal and now in the student engagement, what should parents and seniors be focused on right now? And then also, if you could also touch on a bit of, from a standpoint at 9th, 10th, and 11th grade as well. Right now, yeah, we're focused on seniors because right now October 1st is coming here real fast. And so could you touch on those pieces and those parts?
Certainly, certainly. One, thanks so much for having me. I know there are lots of experienced people here on the call, whether it's teaching seniors, working with seniors, having had or parents of seniors, or you just experiencing with your own kids. So I appreciate the opportunity. And then if there's any information I can share that would be helpful, that's terrific. Ken's already shared a wonderful information that we have on our website. So just to share anything that from my experiences would be great. I'm also a first-time senior parent, so get to see things from a little different lens this year as well. But just a couple of things I would first, one of which is what Ken just mentioned, but the resources. I would first identify what resources are available, and three of the ones that just come to mind: counselors. School counselors are phenomenal, and they have a wealth of information, and they will walk alongside your student and you throughout their time. They likely have been with your student since they were a freshman, and so they know your student. But your counselors, your GRASP representatives, college navigators, all high schools have a college navigator, college and career navigator. They're there 2 to 3 days a week. And so they're a wonderful resource as well. And they work closely with our school counselors. So they're great. So that one, I would identify your resources. Two, a calendar and a timeline. Amy mentioned a minute ago, having that and that being a resource that's on the website too, just some examples of how you can sort of plan things out. But that being sort of critical to and I have found it also to take there is a lot. Your lives are busy, your kids' lives, their schedules, and now we're going to put this on top of it. So really having a calendar and a schedule, a timeline of what needs to be done when, and sort of co-creating that with your student, and really sort of having them take ownership in that, but that being very helpful. Colleges, some of this they likely have done. So if they were a junior, and these are things some of your juniors can be thinking about if they haven't already, but as they went into the spring of their junior year, some probably over the summer. And if they haven't yet, now's the great time to do it. But the colleges that they're interested in looking at, potentially considering as the place that they may want to go next year as their home, but sort of making a list of those, visiting those if they haven't already. If they are short on time, schools are having colleges come to them, so students can go talk with those colleges that are coming to visit there. You can do the virtual tour. College websites have the virtual tours available. Opening accounts, so your Common App account, Transfer Virginia, if you're trying to transfer college credits, your students have taken dual enrollment or gotten college credits through advanced placement or IB. That's a great account to have. Parchment, filling out the permission form as a parent so your counselor can work with your student so they can get their transcript sent. And recommendations, if they haven't already, they need to ask teachers and counselors for recommendations. They need time to do those. So if they haven't already, they need to ask. Some schools have a certain way to do those, whether they have a Google form to request it, or some just have you go and ask the teacher. But to do that if they haven't, and essays, of course. Some started on them over the summer. My daughter is not one that has done that over the summer, but so she is now working on her essay, and the revision process is a big part of that. So beginning to look at that, and she also wants to do her SAT again. All of our high schools offer students the opportunity in the spring of their junior year. They sit for the SAT and they sit for it for free, but students often want to take it again. And my daughter wants to do that again. So now's the time to register for that. So that was a lot that I said folks should be, and it's just September. And then as you head into October, the FAFSA opens, which I know we'll talk about in just a minute. College fair, we talked about the colleges. The county puts on a wonderful college fair, October 22nd. That's going to be at Thomasdale. And we've got some of our knights on the call here. So they're going to host a college fair this year on the 22nd from 6 to 8. The SAT will be in the fall as well. But so those are tons of things for seniors now. And then 9th, 10th, and 11th. One for the 11th and 10th and 11th graders, it's sort of watching the process. Seeing someone else do it is very helpful. So if you have other students in high school that's helpful for them to go through the process, to even go in with your student if you're going to college campuses. That's a great experience for a younger sibling to experience that. And they start thinking about, for many students, it's the opportunity or for them to think, oh, this is a possibility. And so for some students, that is powerful in and of itself. For students as well, thinking about how they can increase some of the rigor of their coursework. So have they thought about taking a college level course, an advanced course, AP course, a dual enrollment course? And if that's something they may want to do as a junior or senior, what are they looking at as a freshman or sophomore to prepare them for that? So I feel like I've talked a lot, so I'm going to be quiet regarding the question you just asked me.
And this conversation is no more. There's no information that's not good. So Patrick, or do you have anything that to add into those parts and pieces? I know you have a vast knowledge in some of that as well. Did she touch on everything that you've seen in the course of your time and the things that you've seen? You're muted, Pat.
All right. There you go. Yeah, definitely a whole bunch of the parts of it. And just making sure that you're practicing what you want to be successful at. That applies in not just, college applications, but in life in general. So like, I am a math teacher. I wasn't the strongest in writing, but I got very strong in writing through grad school at Johns Hopkins. And so I do spend a lot of time talking to my student athletes that I coach about how it's important to practice the essay writing process. I also happen to have a sister-in-law that worked at a large, big name university. And I was able to overhear and talk with her about that process. And I've been trying to pass that along as much as possible. So the first thing she said that I loved the most was like the common application. That has a plethora of essay prompts. It has a plethora of you literally just going through the entire process. And so I get my sophomores and freshmen, I get them to look at it. I get them to click through it. If you haven't played on there, you don't want the first time you go to that very, very useful resource. You don't want that first time to be the most important time. So getting used to that process there. And then also in the actual essay, just making sure that, you're writing, the people who are reading these have to read hundreds of these. So working to see if you can get a good attention grabber, making sure you have all the processes in there. A really salient example that stayed with me over years, because now that I think, man, it's been 6 years since I heard this quote, was one of the admissions counselors at the big name university basically said out loud, like we get over 64,000 people applying, and when I'm reading an essay, if anybody writes like I'm writing this essay because, it just goes to the bottom of the pile like instantly. Like that sort of like, I guess mundane would be an appropriate word, approach to essay writing is not really what they're looking for. Everyone's an individual. So asking around if you need to figure out, what is kind of like your angle is a very useful thing to do. So all of these things are great. I'm just here, I coach, so I take that mindset of starting low and coming up. At least start playing on the Common App, try an essay prompt. And then if you have an excellent English teacher like Miss Smith, you might be lucky enough to get her to proof it for you or a family member. Because more eyes in the revision process, that's a beast. But, getting started as soon as you can and reaching out for help, super duper important.
Awesome. What's the typical timeline for applications, you guys? And what's key deadlines should families have on their radar? Because the thing is, you think about where FAFSA, we know those parts kind of for October 1st, but when you think about early decision, early action, scholarships, and regular decision, how did that play in the factor in this process?
Well, if you don't mind me jumping in. Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Please.
Sure. Couple of things. First, thank you for having me on this evening. I'm excited to share what I have experienced over the years, not just as an educator in the classroom, but also as a mom of two beautiful children who, my husband and I actually helped through their application processes, and our son will be graduating from Virginia State in the spring. So yay, we're almost done. So with that being said, there are a lot of key dates with respect to deadlines for early action, early decision, and those are going to be the November 1st and 15th deadlines. There may be a few that run around the December 1st timeframe. Regular decision, you see the second half of December, right before, we go on winter break, and then you hit the big deadlines for regular decision, your January 15th, February 1st, February 15th. And then for some schools, believe it or not, there's a March 1 and March 15 date. We do have schools that do have what's called rolling admissions, and they will continue to accept students throughout the remainder of the academic year of their senior year, and for some even into the summer for the upcoming fall academic session. The thing to keep in mind is, of course, the differences between early action and early decision. And that's something that it came up as a big, big hot button item when school counselors came to visit with our seniors in school just this past week or so. And knowing that difference, that early decision is, you're stuck. You've made an agreement, and that's it. And if you have an application out somewhere else, you got to take it back. Early action, you're in a smaller pool of applicants, right? Because your eager beavers are out there, they're applying, and that's a smaller grouping of seniors and those, that are trying to get in for that fall semester. It's a wonderful, wonderful advantage, keeping in mind your cumulative GPA and the fact that, and this is something that a lot of seniors don't know, your senior grades do not get sent to colleges and universities until after you commit, or if they ask for mid-year update. If you're teetering on potentially being on a wait list, or they're they've got a competitive pool of applicants and they're trying to figure out, okay, do we want her or not? So that those are the things to keep in mind. With respect to deadlines. With respect to scholarships, though, and this is something I don't think people realize, we do have local private and civic organizations within Chesterfield County and within the Metro Richmond region that provide scholarships where they are being awarded in the spring of the academic year. But on a national level, students can apply for scholarships at any time of the year. And so one thing that I've been trying to do with my seniors at Thomas Dale, and for anyone who's on Instagram, is I'm sharing different resources like Chick-fil-A, Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, McDonald's, pick a federal credit union. There's so many different larger corporations that, and keep in mind, they're competitive. They're very competitive. So you've got to have, everything's got to be tight and right and in good order when you're applying, because that application pool is absolutely going to be competitive. But there's no harm in applying early and finding out long before you graduate, you're going to a traditional four-year university or to a trade school or to a community college. You're applying early. That you have money in your back pocket waiting for you once you actually graduate and cross the stage at that Siegel Center or at the VSU Multipurpose Center come May. So yeah, there's a lot of beautiful options. You just got to know to tap in. And yeah, the biggest thing is just to, reach out. And one little pro tip: never pay for scholarship information. Never pay for scholarship information. There are a lot of scammers out there, and we need to be mindful of that. And it may appear as though it's legit, and oh, this is a wonderful opportunity. We just need someone to help us, and they're going to pay. We just have to pay this fee. Never do that. No. The work is on the student. The work is on the student. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Hey, Lauren, with the FAFSA open on October 1st, are there anything that parents should know and students should know leading up to that date?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, the FAFSA does open up October 1st this year. But if you haven't already, you can make your FSA ID, which is essentially the count that you need to complete the FAFSA now. You can make it at any time. I suggest making it sooner rather than later so that you make sure that your information is processed correctly. And so when you log in October 1st, you don't run into any issues. And if you do have issues, we can troubleshoot now in September. We're not worrying about it when the FAFSA is already out. CSS profile, which is required by certain schools, also comes out on College Board October 1st. And then the VESA, I don't believe we have an exact date for it coming out yet, but it's usually 2 weeks after the FAFSA comes out. An additional deadline deadline that I'll mention about scholarships is that a lot of schools will automatically consider students for academic scholarships if they apply by a certain date. I know at VCU, it's November 1st, which comes up really quickly, but a student doesn't have to submit a separate application to be considered for those really great academic scholarships. Then there are other schools like Virginia Tech who have their own scholarship application. I believe that's due around January. So you just want to check out how each school kind of applies their academic scholarships. They all kind of do it in a different way. And definitely make note of those deadlines.
Awesome. And that's what's so crazy. A lot of times we don't know, and we just think about our scholarships in our own space, not realizing that colleges have their own scholarships that they give out as well. So parents, make sure you definitely take a look at what those colleges that your students and that your kids that they're looking at. Look at what they're offering as well. What about hidden deadlines or details that sometimes we as families overlook? Jennifer, can you touch on that for me?
One that sort of comes to mind because it's just not, everybody doesn't often talk about it. And that's for students that are being recruited. And Patrick, you could probably speak more to this or have worked with students, but if you're being recruited by Division I, Division II schools, students just need to set up their account in the eligibility center for NCAA. So that's something that a lot of families don't often talk about. Their recruiters may, but that's something that was just something that came to mind when you said that. But one of the big things when you just said everyone has their own thing, like their own timeline or their own due date. There's just so much to remember. So you just, as Sonia said, it's really, it's incumbent on the students to figure out, okay, what am I interested in? Like what schools, and to go and know, well, what is their deadline? When am I supposed to turn this in? And to keep track of all of those little things. So whether it's when they have to register for the SAT, or when this application is due, or when is early decision, or, any of the things they're interested in. But a timeline, a calendar, would just be, crucial, helpful.
Awesome. Patrick, is there anything, I saw you shaking your head with some of those pieces, anything that you know about in those parts and pieces that someone maybe missed?
Just for the people who are thinking of playing a college sport, like getting that NCAA eligibility, get that set up. I was recruited to a smaller school, and still that was like the first thing they made me do. And that was so many years ago. Just making sure, like, if that's a different kind of like part of the puzzle that you will need to address, and that can help you set yourself ahead, since, in applications you're applying, or you're trying to promote yourself as best as possible. So that can be something to help you kind of streamline the process. So it's just really just a second and an amen to that. Like, don't like your coach, if you're being recruited, if there's a coach talking to you, they will bring it up to you. But if you're a person who needs to market themselves, that is something to just stay on top of as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, to my panel, when looking at the actual application process, what is the difference between, and Sonia, you spoke on this a little bit, and early action, early decision, and regular decision?
So when you look at it carefully, the application, it's that there's no difference in what you physically need to submit. It is simply the time in which everything needs to get turned in. And so what typically is the trend is that students who are, they keep a calendar or a planner or an agenda, and they have everything marked off, by week, by day. When things get done, they have a to-do list that they're waking up to, and they're checking things off as they go. Those are typically the students that you see that are applying either early action or early decision. They've already visited campuses, either on, guided tours with, with families or with a church youth group or something like that during their junior year or the summer prior to the start of their senior year. They've already narrowed down the list and they already know. And it's just like, okay, I need to find, people, or they already have their list. So I've already been, just full disclosure, I've already been asked by a core group of 4 students among the senior class that already knew that they wanted me to do a letter of recommendation because I've already cultivated a relationship, a good working relationship with them, and they feel most comfortable with me to write on their behalf. And I'm like, absolutely. And that's a personal conversation. And it is the most beautiful thing that any educator could experience, is a student coming to you humbly and with all the grace and love from their heart. Can you write a letter of recommendation for me, please? Of course I can. When is it due? Oh, man. What's time until November 1st? I'm sorry, Amy, what were you going to say?
No. I was just kind of going back, and Lauren referenced it, and because those dates are so different, but then also, especially when you look at some national universities, they all have different approaches to the early action, early decision. Yes. And in some cases, that early action can actually be more competitive to get in, that they either admit or they decline, they do not defer. And so all universities have admissions counselors, especially national ones, or even the ones out of state. They're going to have an admissions counselor, someone in that office who is connected to the Mid-Atlantic, who knows the schools in our area, are kind of typically what the typical student, the competitive student, looks like. So as you are creating your list, making sure that your student reaches out and says, hey, what does this mean? Because they want to have the good fit for their school too, and they want the kids that want to be there. So, they're always willing to talk and help, and you can just come right out and say, is their chances better? Because Lauren mentioned the money piece being tied to it. And that's just kind of putting that in your to-do list for your student of, like, once you narrow down that list, contacting the individual admissions counselors for this region, because they're going to be able to be a wealth of knowledge.
Awesome. And to that point, the thing is that, and because those are those questions that you want to know and want to be answered. And so make sure you are always asking the question. Don't be afraid to ask questions to those individuals as well.
If I can just add to what Amy was saying, well, and Sonia as well, with the early decision for students that choose to go that route, I have heard it's great to know where you want to go, and for that college and university to say, yes, we accept. And so you're already done, right? You've already accepted into a school. One challenge with that, and it's not for some students, is you don't have the opportunity that you would have with perhaps the regular decision or early action, is to compare financial aid packages or what they're going to offer you. So that would be one just thought, or comment I'd throw out about the early decision, is that feature, that option not being on the table. But
and Lauren, can you touch on that? Can you touch on those pieces and how that affects?
Yeah, absolutely. Jennifer is exactly right. You will not know how much financial aid you're going to be offered until the spring, even if you are accepted early decision. So you won't know exactly how much the school is offering you, which can be difficult if you're locking in. They do kind of have a clause where if you cannot, financially, accept the school, if there are financial issues preventing you from accepting the school, you can withdraw your acceptance, but you cannot accept another school. So then you would have to wait for the next application cycle in order to start your freshman year. So we do typically encourage families to not lock yourself in if you are worried about financing that year of school. Being able to compare and contrast those financial aid offers can be incredibly helpful. These offers come out around March, April, usually about 2, 3, or 4 weeks after a student has been accepted, if it's regular decision cycle. One thing that I'll mention with these letters is that they are not standardized either. Every school does their own process differently. So make sure when you do get these offers, you're reading them very, very carefully to see exactly how the school is giving you the number that they're getting for how much you'll be paying for that year.
Awesome. Also, one of the next questions is like some of our seniors who feel like they're behind. The thing is that if a parent or the student feels like they're behind, what's one way to catch up quickly? We've actually, I just dropped a checklist into the portal, into the messenger, and I'll also send this out. And really, it's a combination of just like what everyone was saying. How do you, do what you do? How do you got to create a calendar? You got to create things that's going to allow you to be able to see everything. So we created a catch up to college checklist. So those things that you'll be able to do the things necessary to knock all those pieces out. But then also, like everyone was saying, how do you, stay the course and keep a calendar, keep that checklist so you can do those things. All right. Now, what about how should students approach building their college list? To the panel, what balance can the reach target, the target, and the schools that likely make sense, the feels, the fit? Do they want urban? Do you want rural, small, large, public, private? Those parts. How did all those pieces play into the decision making?
I think I think that's one of the benefits. If you are a parent of a child that's not a senior and have some time, you have a wealth of universities right here. Your child may not want to stay in the Richmond area, but within a 30-minute drive, you can go and visit an urban campus, visit a private campus, visit several different private campuses, visit an HBCU, visit a medium-sized public campus that's on kind of a set apart. And so really kind of starting to take opportunities, like if you're traveling somewhere, see if there's a local college, just so that way your child is getting to see the differences between the universities. But if you're trying to get started now, I think it is, if they don't have an idea, what would you guys say?
And that's that was one of the bigger parts is feeling how do I fit? That's the part is and that's the bigger part of not only doing the virtual trips and the virtual those pieces where each school has really a virtual campus. So now you're able to see not from, and because a lot of times it does, it's a cost factor to that too, the travel. So the thing is that, and that's why you want to create that list and target the ones that you want to really target. But then also once you get that it down to that 10, 5, that 3, now, okay, let's go see if I like it. Do I want to be in a city? Do I want to be out in the cut? Or do I want to be somewhere where it's in the middle? So, and understanding, the difference between what it feels like to be in a small school, because the thing is, Chesterfield County, we have large schools. You're walking. So what it feels like, because Wofford University they have 700 students. And so you go from, 1,000 plus students to 700, that's a big difference. Or you go from, 7,000 to, now you're going to a campus of 20,000. So those things that you want to be able to, jump into and really see. Now the private setting, I've never been on. I've been to. I've actually never been to a private school, a private college. I've been to Hampton, to Richmond. I've been there, but I've never been there during events or doing. So I don't know what that feels like and what it feels. If anyone can touch on those spaces and what that feels like, because that's something I don't know. And so and from what I've heard, it's a very different feel, from some of those schools. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to chime in, and I've not done them every year, but the years that I have taken students to college campuses, I try to make it a day trip, typically in the fall, and I try to visit one private university and one public university in the same day during a regular academic day so that they can get a feel for what it's like in, in academic mode. Homecoming is not jumping on campus. There's no day party outside, and they see students, transitioning, going from one class to another, going to the dining hall, going to, whatever, lab or whatever the case may be. And if the tour guide does allow us to get anywhere near a classroom, you cannot talk. It is quiet, and then you can hear a pin drop. And so the students need to see that and feel that. And fortunately, unfortunately, when there are family tours and open houses and that type of thing, the red carpet is rolled out, which is absolutely incredible. The marching band might be outside practicing. You see the drum line. Of course, I'm talking about the HBCU experience. But at the same time, families need to make sure that if they are going to take their child on it, especially if they're sophomore, junior, freshman, absolutely, especially if you have older siblings, you can see it in action. Go during a regular week. And I'm going to need central office to help me with this. So Amy, is it true that, and I don't know, Jennifer, the Dr. Coleman, let me know, is it true that if a family takes a student on a college visit during the school week, is that an excused absence?
College visits are excused, or they were when I was, that is what, yes. I mean, they were when I was a parent.
Officially, they're not one of the excused reasons, but every high school I know excuses at least 1 to 3 of them that they don't count in the absences that they have to make up. So yes, you're both right.
so take it. So I'm saying to the families that are present this evening, and those that will watch later, please take advantage of that opportunity and go ahead and take the time and to Amy's point, just drive around the Richmond metro region. There's so many universities. I mean, it's a stark difference between VCU and Virginia Union and the University of Richmond, and they're all in Richmond. So that we're blessed to be in a wonderful spot in Central Virginia where you literally are a stone's throw away from quite a few universities, large, small, urban, and rural.
And if you have a senior that has not yet done it, don't despair, because really and truly, you've had probably enough conversations loosely around it to where you have kind of an idea and kind of where you think they might fit. So you can actually start by just suggesting some. And that just starts a totally different conversation. And gosh, I can't afford to fly to Clemson to visit that university and go to Indiana to visit Notre Dame. There you go, Ken. I was going to work it in, or in Pennsylvania. But a lot of times their alumni association will go and they host information sessions locally. So they may go to the Richmond, to the library and be there. So if you can't get there, reach out to them and see when they're going to be in the area.
And that's what's on October 22nd. That will be huge, because those representatives, it's typically, it seems like every school in the country is there, but that's where have your list and take it with you, and then you go and talk to those administrators.
Right. And I think the other piece and the goal, if you really have the time to do it, and we talked about this yesterday, is that there's such a mindset around like the safety, the kind of target or the fit and the reach. And if you really kind of spend the time on the front end looking at different types of colleges, different programs that they offer, ideally you want that reach to not be the end all be all. It's reach in terms of academic fit. And you can find universities that would be places that you would love to go, that are a great fit for you, that might be a target or may even be a safety. And so if your student goes into this process with, kind of things that they really love in every category, then there's not that same feeling of despair. It just didn't match because of academic fit or application fit. So, it's kind of start talking about it early on.
Just to add to what you were saying, when students are thinking about what they might be interested in, and you've talked about, urban and rural, or if they want large or small, a couple of students or friends also that have gone through this process somewhat recently, not only are you looking at the program, does the school have a program that you're interested in looking at? How far away is it? So you mentioned Indiana, or if you're going to Clemson, or if you have a 4-day weekend, is your student one that's comfortable staying on campus in their dorm by themselves, or maybe with another friend? Or no, that's a student that's going to want to come home. Well, coming home quite often is not as possible with an Indiana as it might be with a Radford. I have another friend whose child has a severe allergy, where there aren't many universities in Virginia where they cook their own food. They bring in their food. And so she's attending a university where they cook their food because she can monitor better what she's eating because of her severe allergy. So, and activities. Do you like a lot of activity, or do you really not need that? So you're not looking for a school that's got a lot of things going on in the evenings, on the weekends, type thing. So a lot of little, what would you want to do? Just think about that, and maybe they make a list of what would you be interested in if you were, on campus right now. What is it that would be important to you? And as they make that list, that may help them also narrow down or pinpoint some schools that they may want to look at.
Perfect. And and it goes the same thing. When you think about, Patrick, when you think about academic fit, how does that fit into people's decisions?
So I think it definitely, you will find out as you interact with the school is the one way that I would kind of word it. So I ended up going to a very small private school where they were very happy to talk to me. I was a good fit for that space. They had a program that I thought was great and the major that I was looking for at the time. And the thing that's funny is, like, I did not end off in that major, but I was still a good academic fit. I was still able to be successful when I did change majors, and I was still able to play the sports, and I got the experience I was looking for. So, I mean, like, the academic fit it's hard to believe this when I talk to my seniors about it, but like, the school will know if you're gonna fit in there, and that's not something that as a high school kid you have the kind of like wisdom to kind of like see, or the like range to see. But like, these schools will be able to help you, and they may put it nicely as in, like, you may want to get inside of this program once you get in there, this tutoring service once you start, but they kind of let you know, is just the thing. And the one thing I wanted to chime in on, if you feel like you're too late, is just like just being reflective. Like, I grew up in Baltimore, and I knew I wanted something different. And so I ended up going to a school that was quite far away, and no one else at my high school went to the school. So I just knew that I wanted a new experience. I wanted to feel like I had a fresh start. And a lot of kids will say that coming out of high school. And so that's just kind of the avenue that I fell into. Like, I just wanted to go to a school that had what I had, and I could start fresh and just, kind of grow myself. Because I heard all that saying all the time, in order to grow, you got to go. So just those are just extra parts to add into it. And also I just have to chime in as the sports side of it. You athletically should get a good ballpark as to where you are, as versus like Power 5, Division I, Division II, Division III. That's something just to kind of be realistic about, and like a coach can help you do that, because that's one of the big first conversations I have. Just making sure that it's a good fit for you, that you're going to get attention from the coach or from the school in general. So I just feel like that was a good spot to put that.
Awesome. Lauren, when you think about, because this is one of the things that parents and students don't necessarily, the balance of the dream school with the financial literacy, with the financial reality. How does that really look when a person wants to go to that school, but then, financially it's like a huge reach?
Yeah, it's definitely a hard conversation, and that's why we do encourage students to, be applying to a wide range of different schools so that they have those options, and really trying to, understand that they have a school that they really, really love, but that there are lots of schools out there that might have similar academic opportunities, similar campus size, the aspects that they really love about this one school. There could be a more affordable option that meets a lot of what they love about that school. So trying to let them know that, it's okay that you really, really like this school, but don't necessarily get your heart set on it, and don't let that prevent you from looking at other options and considering other schools. And, encouraging them to really try to find a school that's going to be a good fit for them as a student, but, also a good fit for their family financially.
Awesome. And Patrick, you touched on this earlier, and I want you to follow up with it, Sonia. And Dr. Coleman, if you could as well in this piece. When you're thinking about a strong application, what sets them apart? And you touched on some earlier, Patrick, in that space.
So I think just the 2 seconds of it is making sure that you are able to make yourself stand out. Make sure that you are highlighting the parts of your experience in life that may not be as common for other people. So if you're adopted, speaking to that, or if you are from a household, I remember helping my oldest that was adopted. She didn't feel like she wanted to talk about the fact that her biological father was incarcerated. She thought that that would be a bad thing to put in, that colleges wouldn't want that. And we were able to kind of talk to her and convince her. And then once she finally wrote it and had another person read through it, and she told her how strong of an essay that was, how much that speaks to her as an individual and having perseverance. Those things are just kind of proofs of those qualities that you have. So just making sure you get a way to put those in there in very succinct ways.
And so along with that, thank you so much. I want to say that the loyalty to the extracurricular activities that actually speak to who it is you are as an individual and what it is that you're becoming, right? So there are a lot of students that I've seen over the years where they just jump in and get involved. They're in one thing this year, they're in another thing the next year, and by the time they're a senior, they've got this missy gosh of activities where it's a long list of activities. Okay, cool, but what speaks to your heart? What is it that really touches at who you are, as far as what program of study that you plan to go into when you do land on someone's campus? Those are also some of the intangibles that aren't necessarily outright written as far as what they're looking for, but they're looking for that. They're looking for the loyalty to the program. Okay, who's the kid that, was playing in concert band and may have spoken to it, in middle school, and they jumped right in, stayed in concert band, helped out with the orchestra when they needed a woodwind instrument, and they were in the marching band all 4 years of high school, and they're looking to potentially major in music. Ooh-wee, this is an exciting, individual that definitely has their heart in on something music related. What it is exactly, what they're going to become, we don't know. It could be the engineering side of music, it could be performance, it could be live sound. Either way, we know this kid is interested in music. We have a strong music department. Let's get this guy, right? So these are some of the things that they want to look at. And it's not to say that you can't have a long list of activities, but when you are in just a couple of strong clubs, or it's a particular extracurricular course, say it's the culinary arts. Do you have over the years examples of not just being a member of this thing, but you eventually find your way into, and not find your way, but you work your way into positions of leadership within these extracurricular activities or courses of study that may be through one of our technical centers or a part of the CTE program? These are some of the other intangibles that they're going to want to see. So again, I'm in the marching band, yes, but I was section leader for the flutes, and you're able to speak to that, and you really do have, and to your point, Patrick, the essay, and again, a standout to have an essay that says, and it's one time in band camp, right? But it really is a real story about being in band camp and how much you learned and what you did. That's going to stand out, other than I'm writing this essay because, right? So yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Hey, now what about, in the same concept, how should parents approach it? How should they approach the essay? How should they, when you think about it, what is a way that you would advise a parent who's supporting their student? How would you help them in that essay? And I'm
jumping in now. I'm cutting you off, Ken. Parents, stay away from the essay. It's not your essay. Parents, stay away from the essay. Don't write the essay. It needs to be your child's voice. Even if you're an English teacher, stay away from the essay. and I know, I understand the angst, and oh my gosh, this is not grammatically correct. Oh my goodness, this is not how you say it. It has to be the student's voice. And I'm going to drop a new application or thing in the in the space that you all may or may not be aware of. We now have, these large schools, and I think Virginia Tech was one of the schools that mentioned, and some other big D1 schools. AI is now looking at the essay. And so with that, we're looking at something called, I think the last thing I saw was GPT-0. Universities can upload an essay into this program, and they can tell whether or not someone has copy pasted, whether or not it is authentically human as far as the creation, whether there's actual creativity and innovation, and how long it took to write the essay. So absolutely, to the woman in the chat, Mrs. Cox, yes, the English teachers in Chesterfield County are more than qualified, okay, to review the essay, or your student's favorite teacher that that is okay with looking it over. There are tons of seasoned saints that we have in CCPS that absolutely know how to look over the essay. But the one thing that I do as an English teacher, because the students will come to me, Ms. Smith, is this right? Honey, I didn't give birth to you. I ain't your mama. I don't know how you grew up. I can't tell you what's right or what's wrong. This is your story. And so it has to be authentically their own. Now, I will absolutely help them with grammar and structure and making sure that it is cohesive and well organized. I'll help them on that end. But to actually insert my voice, that's a huge no-no. And to any parent, I wanted to do it too. You cannot touch your child's essay. Don't put anything on it, because it's going to sound, I'm Gen X. Okay. What are they? Gen Beta, Delta? I don't know what generation we're on now, but whatever generation they are, they speak differently and they have a different point of view that we don't have from the 70s and 80s. Okay. So I'm done.
Now, when you're looking at colleges, and this is to the panel, and especially Jennifer, you probably know a lot of this. When you look at the weight of the GPA and the course rigor and the test scores for today, how do they, and do they, what's the impact of them and when a college is looking at them?
And I think, that Sonia and Patrick could weigh in as well. I think all of it is a big piece. I think colleges are looking for the package, the student. I sort of think of it like ice cream. And so we're going to deliver a sundae to the college, right? And so you've got a cone, or you've got a waffle bowl, you've got syrup, and you've got pineapples, and you've got, cherry and whipped cream and whatever. So whatever you put in it, right, your strong GPA, or whether you send your SAT scores or ACT scores, how strong your essay is, your activities, all of the things that go in it, or how delicious your ice cream sundae is. And that's probably not the best example, but in my head, it makes sense. So it's all important. If one piece is not as strong as you'd hoped it to be, then the other, you make up for it as well as you can, with some of the other pieces in your essay. Tell your story. Have someone should, what's your personality? Does that come through in your essay? Have your voice, as Sonia was saying. Your scores, your SAT scores, if they're not what you'd hope they would be, maybe you're not a great test taker. Maybe your GPA reflects, some of your strengths. So it all matters, but, one thing not being exactly where it all doesn't have to be perfect. But just present the best version of yourself as you can.
Now, also adding to that, what about AP, IB, and dual enrollment in those spaces? Is that the same? Is that the same ice cream bowl? Or is that kind of different?
Yes, that's the high school. Goes in that sundae too. Yeah, so that would go into the rigor of the courses you're taking. The college credits that you obviously can transfer in as well, and all of the great things that having credits going into college bring with it. But yeah, when you have some of those AP, DE, those courses on your transcript first, aside from the college credits, it just indicates that you have challenged yourself with a rigorous course. Mm-hmm. How well you've done speaks to some of your capability, but a school would rather see you take a rigorous course load and not get straight A's than to get straight A's and not have challenged yourself. So that goes into, what they're looking for in your academic, not necessarily capability, because that doesn't always speak to your capability. It tells a story about how you've challenged yourself and how well you've done in rigorous courses. Taking those in high school are wonderful. It helps students transition into college. Students are able to take those rigorous courses in high school where they have the support of teachers to come alongside them and work with them. So.
And I think it's important to know that all schools have their own school profile. And so when colleges are reviewing those applications, they're not judging the kid that went to a comprehensive public high school in Central Virginia with a kid that went to, a $50,000 a year private school in New York City. They are, they want to see that you continue to grow and challenge yourself during your 4 years of high school. And so that challenge may not look like an AP class. That challenge may be a type of class, like you learned something new or you leaned in really heavy to a foreign language. So, I mean, you really are compared. It's very different school by school.
I think my perspective here will be kind of interesting because I didn't think this would be relevant. I didn't take any AP classes in high school, and I was still able to be successful in college. I did start off with, the standard level, and then by the end, I was in honors classes. So like the trajectory is not, it's not a, like they said, the profile is different. So I don't think that because you're not taking all APs, all dual enrollments, you're not having to do an IB, you don't even know what the letter stand for, that means it's not for you. It's just on searching and doing the research and leaning on a network that has done something like this before to help you navigate where you're, where you fit in at. So I just think that's important to kind of throw in there that you wouldn't be the only person, because I got to college and I got into Johns Hopkins. So.
Right. And Patrick, I think that's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned. I didn't have AP in the high school that I went to either. I did have it one dual enrollment class, but I didn't have AP. And 4-year schools, we've talked about colleges and universities, aren't the only option either. I went to a community college and then went to a 4-year school. And so every student's pathway, if you're looking at a post-secondary education, can be a little different. It won't all look the same. So the starting point doesn't have to be the same. So I appreciate you saying that.
Jennifer, can you share that resource that you told us about that you can tell, like whether or not, is it Transfer Virginia, where the classes, because if you're looking at the difference between AP or dual enrollment, which one is better, which one is taken,
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
We're looking to save money too.
Yes.
Now, what about in that whole space? A lot of times, there's a stress component. How can we help parents get their students to understand those parts, but not stress out about it? And can you really not stress about not having one thing and having another, or is this one of those things where you just have to have a woosah in those spaces?
I guess I'll jump in because I do get a lot of the students that, that come in and they're like, Ms. Smith, I feel like I'm behind. I don't know what to do. My mom keeps talking about the same school, but I hate that school. Yeah, they come in with all the things. And I said, breathe. So it really is, the woosah, like just still yourself, quiet your spirit, and let's just reflect on what's right in front of us. We talk about, the eating of the elephant, analogy. It's one bite at a time. Let's tackle what you call the closest alligator to the boat, and then we'll get to the rest as we get further down the path. So don't allow the totality of the college application process to weigh on you, because then you wind up freezing. And then there's no productivity. You're not moving forward. There is no progress. And now you're looking to potentially start in the spring of the next year. And so that does not have to be the case unless you want it to be the case. So there are a lot of questions that need to be asked of, of yourself first. Do you want to start in the fall and continue? Do you want to wait a semester? I have a lot of students who say, you know what, I want to take a minute to breathe and start in the spring semester. I'm not a traditional student. I don't want to start in the fall. I don't care about graduating in the spring or in the winter, or whatever the case may be. That's fine. What best suits you? What is the thing that you need to get done? What's most important right now? There are some students who, I have in class right now, they don't have a list. Okay, let's figure it out. Let's talk about it. And so, not every English teacher does this. Not every teacher takes the time to do this, but I actually turn it into an assignment. How do we make the list? And then in a loving but still forceful way, I am forcing them to create the list, right? and then we go from there. And then we actually do the research, and we're looking at courses, and we take a personality test. We do a career match based off the Myers-Briggs results, and then we start really digging deep into what it is that they truly are about, so that they're not only finding their purpose, but there's peace of mind in the process as they're navigating the college application process.
Awesome. Now, what about the SAT? And don't forget, families, that also to take advantage of the free SAT prep class that Chesterfield County offers as well. All right, so make sure you take it. But the bigger part, now, one of the other parts in the SAT space is, for families considering taking the test, what's advice and give the fact that some schools are test optional. I know from it's in my space and seeing it is that you want to be able to give yourself a chance and everything. Am I correct by saying so? And sometimes you don't take that test. There are also scholarships that, and Lauren, you may be able to also speak to that fact that there are scholarships that, based on your SAT or ACT, could impact it.
Yeah, absolutely. So because some schools are test optional, I always try to note to my students that yes, they can absolutely opt to not send in these SAT or ACT scores, but in doing so, sometimes that will then prevent them from being considered for these academic scholarships. So they might not know it, but they're going to be out of the running for these. And then each school also only accepts a certain number of students each year that don't provide their test scores. So that's just something else to keep in mind when you are deciding between a test optional school giving them your scores or not.
I guess I'll chime in again, and I'll use our daughter as an example. She definitely challenged herself while she was at Thomas Dale, and was an honor roll student throughout her years there, and took the SAT. And when she applied early action to VCU, she said, "Ma, I don't need my SAT scores." I said, "Well, don't send them. They're looking at your academics. They know you want to get into VCU arts. You're in the specialty center for the visual arts. Like, duh." And so she didn't. And when she got in, she was like, "I got in." I said, "Well, I know. This is your match. This is for you. This is your fit. You're not going in on a test score. They're looking at the total student." And so when you have that academic strength, and you have, again, going back to the dedication to a particular course of study, and we are absolutely blessed in Chesterfield County to have specialty centers for our students for a wide range of what could eventually become career paths. And so students that actually stick with what it is that they did in their respective specialty center, and they're carrying that with them to a college or a university, they're head and shoulders above everyone else. And I absolutely love the fact that she was able to take advantage of the test optional piece. Our son, on the other hand, he sent in his scores. His scores were great, and so it depends. It depends on what the student has as far as strengths and weaknesses. And to a point made earlier, for some, it could be the essay that puts a student over the top with that application packet. They may be a stronger writer than they are with, answering questions that involve Algebra 1 and geometry. That was me. And so I think that there are pluses and deltas to everything, but you just, as a parent, you need to know where the strong suits are for your child, and I know you do. And so we just navigate from there. The parchment piece, if anyone's wondering, and I'm just going to throw this into the space, after you fill out the form to allow the student to gain access to parchment, if you're concerned about the SAT score, don't check off the option to include the SAT score on parchment. Leave it off, and then if you decide you want to send the scores, then you just send it from College Board. And it's not there on the transcript, because it could be that a student wants to take the SAT again, and I don't know how long that updates to parchment before another transcript from parchment is sent by the student to that respective college or university.
Awesome. Now, when we're thinking about encouraging independence and ownership, how do we do that? How do we set that up for our students, for them to do it themselves, and be on there? And because rightfully so, that next year, this time, they're going to be either at a college doing, making a lot of choices and decisions on their own. And the thing is that if we haven't yet set it up for them, how do we now start to create those habits? And the bigger part is, we as parents got to, put our foot down in some of those spaces. We have to say, hey, look, we don't want you to go out and then you sink. The bigger part is, being okay with letting them, really go off and, like you said, writing that, as we talked about, writing those essays and not critiquing it at every point. And also understanding that, being close to home is not always the right thing. Like Patrick said, like, you gotta, sometimes you have to take that leap out and this, and so have those parts and pieces.
I think and I'll just speak as a parent, when I did it with my daughter, I was blown away by how much angst that they brought to the table. I had my own personal angst, and I was really keeping it away from her, but it's a lot to handle, especially given the fact that they're basically, it's full-blown project management when you think about it. And so certainly, yeah, people are like, well, they're 18, they should be able to do this. And I'm thinking, okay, I know adults that hire event project managers when they're hosting, a big party, or they're doing something, through their work, and they hire an outside person to do it because it's just too many pieces. And this has tons of pieces. And for them, this is so high stakes. And, they don't have the perspective to yet know that it's really not. But like for them, it's just, and they see it as very public facing. And I think one of the things as a parent that when I did, first of all, I didn't go in hard because she was so over it. But we had a lot of conversations early on about like, what are your goals? Where do you want to be? Like, what's the school that you want to be in? So then when when we would have conversations, it was always like, well, I need for you to get this done. No, you need to get that done but the role that you play as kind of an organizer and an encourager and a scheduler, just make sure that so you can do those. You're not doing it, but because they're overwhelmed, they hear nothing. My children would go to school and I'm like, did they mention anything on the announcements? And they were like, no, they didn't say anything. Like, I didn't hear it, because they're not paying attention to anything. And so, and my kids were pretty strong students. So I think it's important to help them and you're not doing it for them, but you're recognizing it's a huge piece. If somebody said, get all of your stuff together and apply to college and write these essays and figure out a way to pay for it and make this choice and decide what you're going to do. To me, at 56, I would be overwhelmed. So this was somebody that I didn't like driving to DC by herself, but yes, you don't want them to, do all of it. So I think that you can help by encouraging and by kind of being a co-partner or partnering with them in kind of laying out a plan and creating the deadlines and the schedule.
You're muted, Ken. But while you're muted, I was going to say something. Echo everything Amy. Echo everything Amy just said. And I'll just say, I sent my daughter today. I saw when I talk about finding, knowing your resources, the school newsletters that they send every week are fabulous. There's tons of information in those. So read all of those. If you don't get them, call the school registrar so that you can make sure your email address is in Synergy, so you'll get those. But they're great. And so in it, I saw that the College and Career Navigator was having like a little session going over things with students about, one of the next steps they needed to do. So I sent my daughter a message to say, hey, did you see that? And did you sign up for one of those? And it was like the second question I had sent her about something related to her college application stuff. No, it was had she turned in something for Parchment. And so she sent me a message back. She was like, Mom, can we please talk about this in person? And then she sent me another one back. She was like, Mom, you are stressing me out. I'm overwhelmed and I don't know how to handle it all. And so I was like, okay, this is too much. I'm doing too much. So I need to sort of take cues from her on every time it comes into my head. It doesn't need to be like, out of my mouth. I need to sort of maybe make myself a list so that I can pace it. So I'm not stressing her out. But
I think you have to give yourself some grace too, and just be honest. And I remember saying, like, I know that I'm like, this is making you stressed. I am just stressed because I know what you want and I want to help you. And I'm stressed because you're my kid. And finally, like, I diffused it with humor. I'm stressed because you've got to leave this house. Like, I'm ready to go. You've got to get into college somewhere. I mean, and I was joking, but like they have one foot out the door and in the door, like it's kind of like the terrible twos, but they're 18, and they can buy lotto tickets. But that is but I think giving yourself grace, because it is, especially if it's your first time. And so knowing that, it's a process. But if you're driving them nuts, just saying, I'm really sorry. I want to know how to help you. What does that look like? And they will tell you.
Awesome. Lauren, when we talked about October 1st date and what parents should be doing, what about, and we touched on the role of scholarships and the aid application. But how do they all play a role in this process as well? And then what are the resources that's available through GRASP?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I often get asked, I think there's some confusion around with students. Do they have to apply to the school before they apply for financial aid? They do not have to apply to the school before you can go ahead and do the FAFSA or the CSS profile. And a student can put down a school for the FAFSA that they might not end up applying for, and there's no penalty. They just won't do anything with the FAFSA. So I always encourage students to put down a lot, but the FAFSA is an editable document, meaning that, say, a student submits the FAFSA, then later down the line has a school they want to apply to that they didn't include, they can go back in, add that school, and resubmit it, and the FAFSA will be sent to that school. And so I'll say right now, I know college applications are what is mostly on students' mind, and it's been kind of nice in the past 2 years that we've had the FAFSA come out later, like December, January, because it feels like it's broken it down a little bit more into chunks. Now we're back to October 1st. So it's a very busy time for students. I try to suggest to them right now before the FAFSA comes out, make that FSA ID, go to the financial aid page of the websites of the schools that they're interested in. And again, look for those priority deadlines for financial aid. So like college applications have priority deadlines, so does financial aid. It doesn't, prevent students from potentially getting aid, but if they want to maximize how much they'd be eligible for, they want to try to meet those deadlines. So write those deadlines down, look how the school does their academic scholarships, and then, of course, continue to search for those just third-party scholarships or like from different organizations, from clubs, from churches. Right now, a lot of them have not opened up yet. You'll typically see them starting to open up October, November, and then, December, January, February, pretty much everything is opened up. But you don't want to miss out on those opportunities. So use the resources you have. A lot of schools will provide lists of scholarships that the students can look at. Our website, which I can put in the chat, it's grassfordva.org. We have a scholarships page. We have scholarships, so if a student is to meet with a GRASP advisor, they are then eligible to apply to our Last Dollar and Community College Scholarship, as long as they're going to continue school when they graduate. But at least one student at that school will get a Last Dollar scholarship and a community college scholarship. So I definitely recommend looking at those, meeting with the GRASP advisor. And then we also have our own list of scholarships. Scholarship search engines like College Board is a great way to filter out based off of certain criteria. And then Community Foundation of Greater Richmond has a great list of local scholarships, which I really encourage students to look at. While the dollar sign might not be as big as those national scholarships, like a couple $3,000 or $5,000 local scholarships do add up. And typically the pool of applicants is going to be smaller, so less competition. And those can be really specific scholarships that your student might be a really, really strong fit or candidate for. That's kind of how I recommend students look at scholarships right now when they're kind of in the researching phase. Think about yourself as an individual. So what you do inside and outside of school, what you might want to major in, or what you're looking at a career for. Think about, any volunteer work or volunteer organizations you're a part of. If you're part of a church, the employer of, their parents sometimes offer scholarships for the kids of employees. Looking at themselves and like their own experiences and interests and identities and trying to find the intersection of some of that in a scholarship is awesome, because again, the pool of applicants is going to be smaller and likely it'll be an easier application for them to complete. So I say right now, it's a great time to start looking at those scholarships, even if they haven't updated yet. A lot of times, if say a scholarship comes out December 1st in 2024, it'll probably come out December 1st, 2025. Obviously, go back and check, save that link. But start coming up with that really solid list of scholarships that they can start working on when they have the time. Make that FSA ID and make sure that you have all the priority deadlines written down somewhere for the schools that you're looking at for FAFSA and CSS profile if a school requires it.
Awesome. Now, and you touched on what's one of the number one mistakes that you see families make when it comes to financial aid?
Yes. So a lot of times, again, I think starting later in the process can be difficult because you're missing those deadlines. I will say one mistake that I can sometimes see like families or students make is not applying for the FAFSA because they think that they won't get any aid. And that is very, it's a common thought. And, I always tell families it doesn't hurt to apply just to see. And there are also sometimes requirements for academic scholarships where they want a student to complete the FAFSA in order to be considered. And no matter what you make, you will always be offered $2,000 in unsubsidized student loans. And so with those loans, they do start to accrue interest right away, but the interest rate is 6.3%. So on average, it's likely going to be a lower interest rate than what you might get at a private bank. So I always just say, apply and see what happens, because there's no harm in it. Especially right now, the FAFSA has been streamlined, so it takes about 30 minutes to complete if like nothing goes wrong. And right now we're seeing it be mostly a smooth process for everybody that's doing it. Also, once you finish the FAFSA, it's processed. It usually takes about 3 days. Go log back in and look at the student submission summary page. Sometimes students don't know that this exists, but it will tell you a couple things. It'll tell you if you're eligible for the federal Pell Grant, and if so, how much. If you're eligible for student loans like the subsidized loan, which is a need-based loan. And then it'll also give you your SAI, which stands for Student Aid Index number. So this is the number that the schools will get, and they'll plug it into their own calculator, and that's how they create your financial aid offer. You won't know exactly how much you're going to get just based off of the SAI, but there are some scholarships that might want that if they're looking at financial need as one of their requirements or criteria that they're considering.
Now, last question for you, Lauren. what other resources? Because I know like Grants, they're partnering with some of the banks. I know last year, and they'll do stuff in the communities as far as some of the resource fairs and stuff. What are some of those? Those are what things, and are those coming up by chance?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely try to partner with a lot of organizations. Last year, we were able to do some FAFSA completion events at the Capital Ones in the area. One, I just want to continue to plug, GRASP advisors are in every school in Chesterfield County. They'll usually be at the school either 1 day or 2 days a week. And graspforva.org, you can find out who your GRASP advisor is and how to contact them. It is completely free and confidential, and we are here to help. But yes, we do try to partner with a lot of our communities. Right now, off the top of my head, I know that we have a Financial Aid 101 presentation on September 25th at a Henrico library. Let me see what that Henrico library is. So this is for anybody. It's completely free. It'll be about an hour and 30 minutes. And let me pull it up. And I believe it starts at 6 o'clock. Okay, here it is.
You can share that with me.
Yes.
And I'll send it out. So but then also, I've also dropped all of the grants representative in the message board for each school. So that also will also, as like we said, that resource is, to have that person there. Now, also, Lauren, what documents should a person need leading up to the October 1st deadline?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the great parts about, registering for the FAFSA early and then completing the form is that based off of the information you input to make your FSA ID, your account, they can then automatically pull your tax information from the IRS and put it in the form. So now most families do not need their 1040 while they're completing the FAFSA. What you'll be entering in manually for the FAFSA is going to be questions about assets. It'll ask you if you receive any federal benefits. If so, what? It'll ask if how much you have in your checkings account, savings account, and cash, any investments you have. So that's mostly what you'll be inputting in for the FAFSA. So you honestly could probably complete the form without needing anything in front of you. The CSS profile is a different story. That is a form that requires everything to be entered in manually. It's a lengthy form that's going to ask a lot of very specific, detailed financial questions about, your family. So you'll want your 1040 for that form. You'll want your W-2s. And if your student worked, you'll have to have their W-2s as well. And that's also a form that requires scanned documents to be submitted after you submit the form.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, our whole panel for, just being here today. We did go longer than we usually do. Typically this one, and I knew I would go longer because that October 1st date and our seniors are precious to us. And we wanted to make sure that they can get off on the right foot and that they're getting all the information that's available to them. And so those are the things that we want to continue to understand, that we want to, use the information that's in front of you and make sure that you're doing those things. And just moving forward, if you have any questions, just reach out to me and send those questions. Or anyone have, and most of the questions were asked during. Are there any questions right now from anybody from our parents that are go ahead, Van Rowe.
Yes, when Miss Sonia was explaining about the parchment, she was recommending, I guess, I forgot that not to put the SAT or to, can she explain again that part?
Oh, I know what she was on, Sonia. You was talking about, well, you have a option. She was saying that you have an option to either when you're filling out the form to either when you get the SAT to automatically send it off once it comes in. But Sonia, what was that one statement that in the college boards? Yeah.
Sure, not a problem. And thank you so much for that question. And so let me make sure I'm clear. I'm not saying don't send it. What I was saying is if the student is a hesitant in their current score for their SAT, when you are filling out the release form as a parent alongside your senior student for Parchment, there's an option to automatically include the SAT score on the official transcript, which is, disseminated through the Parchment account, or you can leave it off. What I was saying is, if you know that your senior is considering taking the SAT again, I'm just saying don't put it on Parchment. Send it separately through College Board. The score is still going to be sent. It's just going to be sent from College Board once it updates in College Board first. I don't know what the lag time is from the time that College Board receives the newest score to the time that it actually gets updated for the Parchment account when you're sending it with your transcript. And so all I'm saying is that it would just make sense to allow your student to take the SAT again, leave the SAT score off of the Parchment transcript, and just send them separately. That's what I was getting at. So I hope that's a little bit clearer for you, ma'am.
Okay, so you were suggesting that to send it through College Board, right?
Yes, ma'am. And they allow a certain number of, and anybody else on the panel can help me out with this. I believe it's 4 or 5 different universities that College Board will send the SAT score for free before you have to pay a small fee.
Oh, so they will allow up to 4 to 5, you say?
Yeah, and fact check me on that, because it's been a while since I've looked at College Board as a mother, and so
Right.
because I'm not looking over our son or our daughter's shoulder anymore. I've not seen it as far as the number that can be sent, but there is a number of colleges and universities that they can send automatically for free for their SAT or their ACT scores. Yes, ma'am. Oh.
Well,
Thank you,
okay.
Dr. Coleman. She said Dr. Coleman put in the chat, it's 4. It's 4.
So it's 4 times the College Board will send to the universities the SAT test, the SAT grades, right?
Correct.
4 times they will send. It will be covered basically for free, right?
Yes, and not but for different universities.
Oh, okay. To 4 different universities. After
Yes,
that, the parent has to pay.
And I think the fee is I don't think it's a large fee. It's small. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any more questions? And the biggest thing is, remember, each school has a high school counselor, and they have all this information in front of them that can help guide your student into the space. So make sure you take advantage of that high school counselor and all the things that we spoke on today, and being able to help guide them through this. And then also the GRASP representative. Each school, I dropped those all those individuals that represent each high school in Chesterfield. So each Chesterfield high school has a GRASP representative. Make sure you take advantage of your resource, because that's the biggest thing. Even when your student goes off to college, make sure we have another session in the springtime, well, in the new year, where we talk about resources that you have at the school when you get to the college. Make sure you take advantage of the things that's in front of you, and it's going to help you. One of those resources are high school counselors and a GRASP representative. Now, the bigger thing is that we want to thank our panel and our guests for coming tonight. Our next session will be September 17th. The application process. Where is it? Mrs. Rowe, you got another question? What you got?
Yes, I was trying to take a screenshot of the. Oh gosh, the one before. Yes, thank you so much. So I can
Okay.
If something comes up, I can email them, I guess. Yeah, give me 1 second.
And I'll send all this information out in the email also, so you'll get it. So don't worry. I'll send you all the links that we have tonight, and this slide deck as well. I'll send it to you guys, so you'll have the information, all the links, so you'll have it, so you don't have to worry about that, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And so, making sure that you join us on our next What's Next Wednesday. I can't mind for some reason.
I think it's October, right?
Yes, it's in my way. It's October 15th. Yeah, October 15th, and it's and Lauren will be with us again on Ready Set FAFSA. We'll be talking all things in that space, and whatever process you're in at that, bring your questions for that day, because I know you'll be knee deep in FAFSA and all those good things. But then also, as we continue to go through what we have, everything that we're doing, we're always trying to continue to give information to our families and our community. We have Coffee and Conversation, another virtual series with Catherine Tompkins. Her next day will be on September 24th. That's a 1 to 2 p.m. Again, virtually. The Power in Words is that next session that you have, but then also we have so same series that's also is bilingual as well with Juan Santa Coloma. But then also we have a Face Forward series. Those will come out soon. All those are programs that's going to help your families understand the things, just like What's Next Wednesday is helping us understand the roadmap to college and what's to come with those pieces. But it's under Programs and Families on our website. That's ONE. Is CCPS one on CCPS.org. So please check that out. We'd love for you to continue to create those parts and pieces. Also, I will send out all the information that we have today. And again, I want to thank our panel for coming and speaking with us and spending this extra 30 minutes. But I appreciate it, all of it, and our parents and our community appreciate you being here as well. Thank you, and have a great day.